Alright, welcome back. This is part 2 of part 3. So we've oaked the brandy, we've got it here. What I've done is I've filtered it now. So I've taken the wood out, all the oak, and then I will run it through a filter. You can use just a simple coffee filter, works just as good. If you want, you can run it through a couple of times. There are other more complicated ways to filter your product. It's for home. I find this works perfectly. If I'm not too happy, I might do it again. So I've got a jar here that's sorted and nothing floating around inside of it. I'm happy and I'm looking forward to drinking this. Alright, so how I got to this process. I have a little tube with my alcohol tester. You've got to have one, otherwise you thumb sucking and that ain't gonna work. And a thermometer. Now if it was in winter, I probably wouldn't use this as much, but in summer, and if you're living in a hot area, you need one of these. Alright, because the temperature of your alcohol has an effect on your alcohol tester. Now this alcohol tester it's rated at 20 degrees Celsius. So anything over that is going to force it to give you a higher reading. Now I put this in the fridge, and when I started with this, my starting temperature was 29 degrees. This was at 22 degrees. So the best thing to do is just download a mobile app. I've used a couple in the past. You can work through them. I'll put a link of which one I use down in the comments. So my app, what it does is it'll ask you for your volume. So when I started with this, it was 1.6. I took some out to give me space in the jar to fill up. And then it said, right, what was the alcohol by volume? That was at 56 at the time. Now when it said 56, I already knew I was in trouble, because before I'd started oaking, I knew I was at about 54. And now with a little heat wave we had, it sort of cooked everything up. So I knew that. So then it asks you what result alcohol do you want. Now of course I want 43% to have it to what we normally drink in our bottles in the stores. Then it'll tell you, do you want to calculate the temperature? And you say yes. And you add in what the temperature is at that time of, not current ambient temperature, of your alcohol. And that was sitting at 29 degrees. So I was getting ready to start boiling it. And then it'll give you a volume of water to add to your alcohol in order for you to dilute it to 43%. Now, if you don't take that calculation into account, and a lot of guys do this, and this is why it sometimes comes across as you are screwing over your friends by diluting your stuff too much. But it's 9 times out of 10, it's actually just a human error, and it's something not taken into account. Because if I hadn't taken the temperature into account, instead of my calculation being 350, it probably would have told me to put in an extra, say, 400 mils instead of 350. That makes a huge difference. 1 or 2 degrees in percentage of alcohol, you can taste it. So by putting in too much water, it means I've dropped it down to like 41%, and you are going to notice that afterwards. So use a thermometer and get your calculations correct, and then pour in your right amount. So with that being done, I'm happy now with the temperature I've got, that I have now got 43%. I'll take a picture of it later. And I'll zoom in. I'm going to pour some of this in here. Now, not even aiming at the jar. Okay, another little tip too is when you want to pour into your bottles, make sure you measure correctly. Now that I'm thumping the jug around. Okay. A funnel like this has got quite a big base to it, and I'm using quite a wide neck bottle too. I like these jars, these bottles for putting my stuff in. Then I know it's not commercial. But if you pour in, this is going to cause a vacuum. So you'll fill up your funnel and it'll start filling up your bottle, but then it's going to catch up here. And then by the time you stop, you lift it up, you're going to have wasted alcohol all over the show. So it's best to keep it raised a little bit. Pour in your brandy. A little bit over 750, but that's cool. I'm going to be drinking it. Right, I'll put on a lid. Well, actually, no, I won't. Oh, nice and fruity. Yeah, that's got a kick, but it tastes right. It's going to go, it's nice and woody. Yeah, there's some flavors coming through there. Right, so I will now put a label on this to show that it's brandy, and don't get, because you can have, I might have a whiskey that I've made that will be similar in color. You don't want to mix them up, so put a label on it, you know what you're doing. Another handy tip too is when you're using jugs, funnels and jars and stuff like that, and bottles. I like to rinse all my bottles off, even if I've got them from my supplier. They may have either dust or stuff inside them, or they spray it with just something to make sure that no pests come in contact. I like to rinse them off. Don't use your washing water that you've used. Use it clean, because you can, if you've got last night's dinner plates flavoring in your water, it's going to end up in your bottle. So I like to put a clean batch of soapy water, clean it out, rinse it off nicely with water. I even will use a light solution of Milton's to make sure that there's no contaminants on any of the bottles. Soak them, or then soak them in water afterwards, and make sure there's no residue. And then you've got a nice clean bottle afterwards for your product that's not going to harm it in any way. Put your label on, get ready to drink. Cool. Alright, hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, give us a like and a subscribe. Next video we'll be knocking some whiskey out, some popcorn whiskey. So, cheers guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Oh yeah. This is going to be good at a bri. Cheers.